My name is Eleanor, and I have lived in the same countryside town for more than 40 years. It is a quiet place, a little slow, a little old, and very peaceful if you know how to listen. I run a small herbal shop beside the post office. People come to me for tea leaves, ointments, and sometimes for comfort that they cannot find anywhere else. They call me the wise woman, though I always tell them, I am not wise, just someone who has lived long enough to see what life can do to people who never stop. One morning, the bell above my door rang, and a man stepped in. He looked about 50, though his shoulders drooped like an old man's. His clothes were clean but wrinkled, and his eyes were tired in a way medicine cannot touch. He said, "Ma'am, I need something for my fatigue. I feel drained all the time." I smiled kindly and motioned for him to sit. "Tell me more," I said. "When did this start?" He sighed. "Months ago, maybe longer. I wake up tired. I eat, but it doesn't help. I drink coffee, but it only makes me shake. My wife says I work too much, but how can I stop? The farm doesn't rest. The animals don't rest. The bills don't rest either." I nodded slowly. "And do you?" He frowned. "Do I what?" "Rest," I said softly. He looked away, pretending not to hear. I have seen that look before, pride mixed with fear. I poured him a cup of chamomile tea and handed it over. He took a sip, then asked, "Will this help me feel strong again?" I said, "It might help you slow down." He forced a smile. "Slow down? I don't have time to slow down." I watched the steam rise from his cup. Sometimes the hardest medicine to take is truth. For a few minutes, we sat in silence. The old clock on the wall ticked softly, marking time that neither of us could hold. Then he spoke again. "My name's Samuel," he said. "I've been farming since I was a boy. My father worked until his last breath. He used to say, 'A real man earns his sleep.' And I believed him. I still do." I smiled gently. "And how much sleep does a real man get these days?" He laughed, but it was the tired kind of laugh. "Maybe 4 hours. 5 if I'm lucky." I shook my head. "That's not sleep, Samuel. That's survival." He looked confused, almost offended. "But the world doesn't stop for tired men." "No," I said, "but tired men eventually stop for the world." He stared at me, not understanding. So I said more clearly, "When you don't rest, life will make you, one way or another." He sipped his tea again, slower this time. "Do you think that's what's happening to me?" "I think your body is whispering. If you don't listen, one day it will start to shout." He said nothing, only looked down at his rough, cracked hands. Those hands had built a life, fed a family, held a plow. But now they trembled slightly as if begging him to stop. He came again the next week. He looked no better. "Eleanor," he said, "the tea didn't fix me. I'm still tired. I even tried the vitamins you gave me." I asked, "Did you rest?" He frowned. "I told you I can't. There's too much to do. I feel weak, not because I'm tired, but because something's wrong inside." I could feel his frustration. He wanted a cure that came in a bottle, something that didn't require him to change. So I said, "Then let's talk about what's inside." He looked puzzled. "My stomach? My blood?" "No," I said softly. "Your days, your thoughts, your heart." He laughed a little. "You sound more like a preacher than a healer." "Maybe I'm both," I said with a smile. "Tell me, what's a day like for you?" He started talking. He woke before dawn. He fed the animals. He fixed fences. He worked in the fields until dark. He came home to eat, fell into bed, and did it again the next day. He hadn't had a full day off in years. "And why?" I asked. He shrugged. "Because if I stop, everything falls behind. Because I'm the only one who can do it. because that's what a man's supposed to do. I sighed softly. Samuel, the earth doesn't grow faster because you push it. The seeds will sprout when they are ready, not when you are tired enough to beg them to. He looked at me, almost angry. You don't understand. The world depends on work. I nodded. Yes, but the world also depends on people who can keep working. If you break, the work breaks too. He fell silent. I could see something shifting in him, a thought he didn't want to face. So I gave him a small brown packet. Here, I said, this is lemon balm and valerian. It might help you sleep. But remember, no tea can give rest to a soul that refuses to slow down. He took the packet and left. 2 weeks later, he returned. This time, his shoulders drooped even more. Eleanor, he said, nothing helps. I sleep a little, but I wake up feeling worse. My back hurts, my chest feels heavy, and sometimes my heart beats too fast. Is it my heart? You think? I watched him carefully. Did you see the doctor? He nodded. He said everything is fine. My blood's fine. My heart's fine. But how can I be fine when I feel like this? I smiled sadly, because sometimes the body is fine, and the life is not. He frowned. The life? Yes, I said. The way you live, the pace you keep, the weight you carry. He sat quietly for a long time, then whispered, I can't remember the last time I felt peace. Maybe when my children were young. Maybe before the drought. Then maybe, I said gently, your sickness isn't in your body. Maybe it's in the years you've carried too much without stopping. He rubbed his face. You really think a man can get sick from working too much? I smiled. Not from the work, from forgetting himself in the work. The next morning, I saw Samuel again, but this time, not in my shop. He was sitting by the old oak tree in front of the church, staring at the empty road. I walked over. You look deep in thought. He nodded slowly. I didn't go to the fields today, for the first time in years. I smiled. And how does it feel? He looked down. Strange. I feel guilty. Why? He sighed. Because I feel like I'm wasting time. Maybe, I said, you're finally giving time a chance to find you. He looked puzzled. What do you mean? You've been chasing time your whole life. But time isn't meant to be chased. It's meant to be shared. You give some to your work, some to your rest, some to your family, and some to yourself. That's balance. That's how you last. He nodded, though not fully convinced. I don't know how to slow down, he admitted. If I stop, I don't know who I am. I smiled gently. Then that's the sickness, Samuel. You've built a life so full of doing that you've forgotten how to be. Weeks passed. Samuel didn't come by often, but when he did, he stayed longer. He talked more. About his father, his children, his wife who missed the man he used to be. He began to understand that his body was not failing him. His way of living was. One day, he said, Eleanor, do you ever get tired? I laughed softly. I'm old, Samuel. I get tired all the time. But I've learned to listen to my tiredness instead of fighting it. He looked thoughtful. And what if I can't? What if the world won't let me rest? The world won't give you permission. I said, you must take it. He nodded slowly. That's hard. Most wise things are. A month later, something changed. I saw Samuel walking slower, calmer. His face looked softer. He told me he started waking earlier, not to work, but to walk by the river before the sun rose. He said, it's strange. The more I rest, the more work I can do, and the less angry I feel. I smiled. That's because your body isn't fighting you anymore. He chuckled. You were right all along. I wasn't sick. I was just tired of being strong all the time. I nodded. That's what I've learned too. Sometimes strength is not in holding on. It's in letting go. He looked at me quietly. When I was young, I thought resting was lazy. My father never sat down unless he was eating. But now I see, maybe he was wrong. Maybe he died early because he never stopped. I touched his arm gently. Maybe he didn't know he was allowed to stop. That evening, after Samuel left, I sat alone in my shop and thought about all the people who had come through my door. Tired mothers, anxious farmers, lonely widows, all searching for medicine when what they really needed was peace. I whispered to myself, we live in a world that teaches us to fix everything but ourselves. Months later, Samuel came again. But this time, his eyes were calm. His smile was easy. He brought me a basket of apples from his farm. I wanted to thank you, he said, not for the tea, for the truth. I smiled. Truth doesn't always go down easy. He laughed. No, it doesn't. But it's the only thing that lasts. He told me he started taking one day off each week. He and his wife had dinner on the porch, just watching the sky change colors. His children said, he laughed more now. He said, I thought slowing down would make me weaker, but I think it made me human again. I looked at him, proud. That's the secret, Samuel. Rest doesn't take your strength away. It returns it. After he left, I thought about how many Samuels walk the earth, people running faster than their hearts can handle. People who think peace is a luxury, not a necessity. We chase money, success, approval, and when our bodies break, we call it illness. But often it's not illness. It's exhaustion that has turned into silence, asking us to listen. The world says rest is for the lazy, but the truth is rest is for the wise. The wise know that life is not a race. It's a rhythm. You breathe in, you breathe out, you work, you pause, you give, you receive. When one side takes too much, everything collapses. I still see Samuel sometimes at the market. He walks slower now. He smiles more. He talks about planting new trees instead of chasing bigger harvests. He told me once, I learned that when I stop, the world doesn't end. It just becomes quiet enough for me to hear it again. I told him, that's the sound of peace. And sometimes, when the day is long and the shop is quiet, I sit by the window and watch the sunset paint the fields gold. I think of all the people still running, believing they must move faster to prove their worth. But I've learned something in all my years. The strongest souls are not the ones who never rest. They are the ones who know when to pause and breathe. Because life isn't about how much you do. It's about how well you live. Medicine may cure the body, but only wisdom, quiet, gentle wisdom, can heal the soul. This is what I've learned in this little countryside town. The earth rests after harvest. The river slows after the rain. Even the sun sets each evening. So why should we believe that rest is weakness? Rest is not the end of work. It is part of the rhythm that keeps us alive. And when we finally understand that, we stop living as machines and start living as humans again.